Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won. Yeah. I hope my team they won. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won. I hope my team they won. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop out on assignment. So we got the clinical professor, Drew, in the building, making sure that we can give you a Inside the HBCU fix lecture as usual, as regularly scheduled. We have an interview coming up. See if we can get that down for you. Talk a little bit about baseball. We got new polls out this week. Black College Nines releasing, and I'm excited about who's at the top of the poll. So we'll see who that is. There is a change at the top. We'll give you some updates on that second half of the show. With that being said, welcome to episode 258 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports from institutions large and small, from NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture and HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host for tonight, clinical professor A.D. Drew. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting, educational consulting, and data analytics. Let's just get right into it. With that being said, Professor Drew.
Yes,
what
sir.
What news do you have out there for the people? First, let me ask you, I didn't do that as I like to do. How you doing today?
Oh, my brother, I'm doing fine, man. I'm doing fine. This is a great day here in South Georgia. We could use a little rain down here, but other than that, everything is going lovely, man. You know, I work at education, and today I called it Triple Nickel Day because we've got 15 days left in school, so it's triple nickels.
Oh, is this 15 days?
15 days.
The countdown that good?
Yeah, the countdown is that good.
Oh man, that must be a nice thing. It's so summer is really upon you, it seems.
Summer is upon me, and you know, and the thing is, even on the collegiate level, Doc, you happy that you get to the end and you get that break, but you know, those relationships that you build with your students and everything, you know, especially the ones that have come to the terminal point in their career with you, you know, it is a bit of a teary moment at that point, as you wish them the best.
No doubt about that. It certainly gets to be and can be a tearjerker in so many different ways. The other thing for me, now that I'm in the administrative side of things, you really don't get the break off in terms of the university status. So that's something that I'm just getting used to a little bit. I'm like you on the faculty side, you know, you get this summer and you go just do what you want to do. You have a choice at higher education level, whether you're going to teach a summer school or not. Obviously extra pay if you do, but if not, and you want to do your research, just take a break, travel a little bit. That's on you, or if you have other projects that you're working, you can do that. I missed that, I must admit, just a little bit, but you know, such is life. With that being said, let's get into it in terms of HBCU sporting context. What are some of the news of the day that you're looking for, or you have for us?
There's no bigger for me than the field for the Black College World Series. was announced yesterday. Excuse me. Let me start that over, Dr. Cavil. The field for the Tyson Foods Black College World Series was announced yesterday,
nice.
here on the Black College Sports Network, with myself along with Michael Coker for NCAA Division II teams, for NAIA.
Can you give us some of the field?
Oh, I can give you the entire field. And if you want to go back and watch the selection show, just go back and check us out on the MyJBN app, on YouTube, Facebook, and on Twitter also. But in the NCAA, on the NCAA side, and these are in alphabetical order. Teams have not been seeded yet. Teams will be seeded after the regular season concludes this weekend. But alphabetically, you have Albany State, Bluefield State, Miles, and Savannah State. On the NAIA side, you have Edward Waters, Florida Memorial, Rust, and Talladega. Now, there are 8 teams, Dr. Cavil, but there are 8-ish teams who need to prepare to go to Montgomery. Why do I say 8-ish? Because if COVID has taught us anything, is to always have a backup plan, have somebody on deck to in case something happens. You know, you didn't make these plans 3 years ago, but you always have to do that now. In the NAIA level, Xavier of New Orleans is our alternate team. And on the Division II level, you have Kentucky State and Tuskegee as your alternate teams. And that's extremely important in the SIAC, because should one of the teams that is in the tournament win the SIAC tournament championship, they will be replaced by the alternate, as they will be obligated to go to the Division II tournament.
Yes, makes sense. Very good, very good. Very, very exciting about what's going on there. We talked a little bit about these championships, but I want to get into J.R. Smith wins an award for academics at North Carolina A&T from HBCUGameday.com. Provided this information. The brother got a 4.0, getting in there. You talking about an academic athlete getting it done. 36-year-old former NBA star, showing he just as much a student as he is an athlete, if not more. I was excited to read this, and his quote is really nice when you talk about it. He's quoted as saying, "Man, I've been eating junk food my whole life, and now I got to quit because I'm learning about nutrition in my his class." It quote he wrote on August 28th. Quote, "African Americans especially have to cut out so much fast food and sugar in our diets. Diabetes rate is way too high and is going higher," as he says, end quote. "I hate school growing up and knew this would be a challenge, but that's not going to discourage me 1 second," he wrote. "You have to be able to buckle down and lock into your journey and challenges coming in your life, observe, learning, and adapt." Very excited about what JR is doing, representing, and you could tell he went back, taking it serious and learning so much. He's excited about it, which is awesome in so many different ways. You have any thoughts on this?
Dr. Xavier, I actually understand, what J.R. Smith was. Now, I was a good student coming up in school, but to be honest with you, Doc, I never got my first 4.0 in school, and I'm talking from high school all the way through my undergrad years until I went to grad school. Was the first time I got a 4.0, and I was one of those students who did not go directly from undergraduate to graduate. I took a few years off and worked, and then came back to grad school. I was in my early 30s when I went to grad school, and maybe just that life experience, I took it a little more serious than I did when I was just in school, worrying about when the next party was and how I was going to put gas in my car, and all the little different challenges you had when you were in school as an undergrad. By the time I was a grad, yes, I had a family, but I was out here on my own trying to better myself. I had a goal. I knew what my goal was. And because I wasn't worried about going to all the parties and being at everything all the time, I actually went home and read and studied. So, you know, I didn't care what was going on at the club, you know, go to a bar, get a drink or two, but I wasn't trying to get drunk no more. I was just trying to have a drink to mellow out and then go to the house.
Great point. Maturity makes so much difference in terms of classroom for a lot of people. So point well taken. Before I get in to ask you some follow-up news that you want to share, let me get a shout out to the lab viewers out there. LaShawn Harris, Ricky Burton, Michael Lee says, "What's up, guys?" No doubt about it. Lonnie Shaw says he's in the lab. Anthony Wesson, what's up, everyone? Kay Johnson, great Thursday evening, lab fanatics. That's it. G Boom Holly says, "Evening, lab rats." We in the lab, baby. Yes, indeed. Kay Johnson, Alabama State has a new quarterback from the transfer portal. Big deal, too. He's solid out of this Houston area. Talked about that a little bit last week on just how big that was. Being in Texas, you know, he comes from one of the larger perennial programs out here in North Shore. We saw him do his thing, bringing 2 championships over here to North Shore during his high school days. And from everything I recall and what I've seen, and even from what I'm hearing about the Auburn fans in terms of hating to see him go, but supporting because he was that type of player down there in terms of relationships he built. He is the truth. So it'll be interesting to see what he does in that Eastern Division, which is really loading up, you know, with quarterbacks in terms of Shador, who won the Big Ben, L. Cavil, HBCU football award for the best player from an HBCU out of the state of Texas. He's back, obviously, and you saw what he did, winning national awards and things of that nature, obviously the championship, and taking his road all the way down to the Celebration Bowl. You got to transfer to Alabama A&M, transfer to Alabama State now, as you see, transfer at FAMU. Yeah, the transfer that's coming back to Mississippi Valley State. So, wow, it's going to be a little interesting over there in the East that had already showed what they could do against the West. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like in terms of that. Let me go to you before we get in there and get ready to take this break and get into our guests. Any other news that you want to share before we get into it?
I have to side when I read this one because of the school that this represents, but it's a good thing. Morehouse colors to be featured in NASCAR race. And this is from HBCU Sports in partnership with Historically Black Colleges. And NASCAR continues as another school will be featured in a high-profile race. The Geico 500 at Talladega Motor Speedway will have the Morehouse colors on the 44 next-gen Chevrolet driven by NASCAR veteran Greg Biffle. You know, anytime we get this type of exposure on there, especially to a culture that traditionally does not follow, and let's be honest, does not tend to care about us as HBCUs, you know, it's great. And those who want to see the Morehouse car, Geico 500 will start at 3:00 Eastern and will air on Fox and MRN this upcoming Sunday. I only have one question about this, Dr. Cavil.
What's that?
It's the Talladega 500. Excuse me, it's the Geico 500 at Talladega Motor Speedway. Would have made more sense to me if Talladega would have been on the car. The Talladega Tornadoes would have been on the car since they are their campus is less than 20 miles from the Talladega Motor Speedway. That's the only negative that I have about this particular one is the logic, or if not Talladega, another institution from the state of Alabama. I mean, I'm happy that Morehouse is being featured, but that's just my only critique about this.
It makes sense, though. I see what you're looking at there. I see what you did there. I see what you did. Before we get into it, sticking with Talladega, in terms of the racetrack, you have Rajah Caruth that finished 6th. He was up there in terms of the lead, but in late restart, ultimately doomed him to a 6th place finish, which is solid, obviously, during the caution flag. So he continues to get it done. Obviously, people know the connection with the HBCUs as he is representing, getting out there, getting it done. With that being said, let's take our first break. We'll be right back. Stick with us after this break, and we should have an exciting interview for you coming in on the other side.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black College baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate pride. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
One bite of 100% Angus beef ballpark frank, and you'll say, hello, summer. Oh yeah, it's ballpark season.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop are out on assignment. So we have the clinical professor Drew in the building as we get ready for a championship coach, other than Glenn Caston, giving us from Xavier University, bringing home a competitive cheer championship to Xavier University. That's the NAIA National Team Championship. For those that hadn't heard by now, they've been asleep, obviously. But we're going to let you know and get you some more information of what you may not understand or be aware of. With that being said, before we get into that, don't want to bury the lead, but before we get into that, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask a little bit about yourself. Where you from? Connection to HBCUs? How do you get to Xavier? How'd you get into championship? I mean, in competitive cheer.
Well, thank you, Dr. Cavil. Thank you for having us and inviting us to your platform. We really, really appreciate it. So I'm Glenn Caston, and I'm the head cheer coach here at Xavier University of Louisiana. I have assumed this role for about 3 years now as the competitive cheer coach, and 5 years as the cheer coach in general. So overseeing our spirit operations at games and such. And I'm also the Inclusion and Social Justice Officer here at the university. So representing the Office of Inclusion and Social Justice. So doing all of that great work and using that as our platform and embedding our mission into all of the work that we do. Whether it's cheerleading, whether it's our on-campus garden, whether it's our student programming, whether it's our academic success. Our job in this office is to really bring those things to light. So I'm glad to be here. Born and raised New Orleans native. I've always loved Xavier University of Louisiana. Couldn't afford it to come here.
I'm sorry.
But gracious to certainly be here to work with these so great young athletes and young scholars. They are ready. They are ready.
People don't understand how much Xavier costs, but yeah,
I can great education.
Great education, but you're gonna pay for it.
And you know, the best part about that is that Xavier Cheer offers scholarships, right? So we offer and equitable scholarships, really good scholarships. So it helps these athletes to get here. So we're excited to offer that and provide that gap because I know what it means not to be able to meet that. So yes.
Yeah, I'm glad it's more than a book voucher.
So in terms of a little bit about the cheer, how many individuals do you have on the team?
So currently our roster is 40. We started with 50 at the beginning of the year, but our athletes are required to maintain academic eligibility. Of course, we have some that graduate in December. And so next year's roster will be back at the 55 mark. Yeah. But on the mat, what you've seen as a production, we can have a maximum of 20 athletes. Right now we had, this year we had 19 athletes to actually compete on the floor. Yeah.
So let's circle back just a little bit before I pass it on Professor Drew to ask a question. How did you get to Xavier? Specifically, like you said, being from New Orleans, you're very aware of it. But what was your role back to the institute?
Prior to me coming to Xavier, I was a high school leader and a teacher. So I've always known Xavier. I've always sent my students here to Xavier. And then after that, I went into nonprofit philanthropy work. So fundraising, being an executive director of a nonprofit, and doing all of that kind of work. So when there was an opportunity, when I left my high school, I was coaching the high school, even as a leader, I was coaching the high school. And I was like, man, I love cheer. I love cheer. I love cheer. Cheer has always been in me. Well, I cheered in college. I also cheered in high school. So it's always been a part of me. And some seemingly, when cheerleading is a part of you, you can't let it go. I'm looking at people who's 70 years old still doing this. I'm like, listen, you might not be able to do a toe touch, but you're still in the industry. And so I couldn't just leave it alone. There was an opportunity that came along. One of my good friends who I worked with at the high school, she's a graduate of Xavier. She's like, you should apply for this job. This would be a great job for you. And so that happened. I did it. I got the job and immediately saw that this team has so much potential, right? They had so much life. I was like, I just need to get them from point A to point Z and really quickly at that too. So.
And it led to a NAIA National Team Championship. Professor Drew, go ahead and follow up with a couple of questions.
All right, Coach Caston, and I'm gonna call you Coach because cheerleading. And no, the reason I'm saying that is I'm not gonna call you the cheer sponsor. I'm gonna call you Coach, just like I would call anybody else on here, Coach, because cheerleading is probably as demanding physically as any other thing that we do, basketball, football, everything else. A little bit of background with me. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri, Lindbergh High School, and we had it was called a pom-pom squad, but in essence it was competitive cheer.
Yes. And
I used to see those girls practice and compete and everything. They won 10 state championships in a row. So I kind of understand your passion from it, because I used to watch those girls go out there and do it. And I circle all that around to get to cheering at HBCUs is kind of on the same level as how we revere our bands when those girls go on the sideline.
Yes.
But we're talking competitive cheering. So what is the difference between what we see at the football game and the basketball game and what these girls are out there doing in a competition in an arena or on a stadium format?
So here's one thing. One, the routines in competitive cheer is 2 minutes and 30 seconds. You have to jam pack your routine with the most difficult stunts, the most difficult tumbling, the most difficult pyramids. So it all comes, I like to say it like this, and maybe some people may not like this analogy. It's bringing that football experience consolidated in 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Because we have good teams. Like I think about the J States. I think about the Southern universities. Those are really good, strong programs, you know. And the skills that we're doing at these competitions sometimes mirror some of the skills that you see out at a game, right? How we do them may be a little bit differently because of the rule regulations, but certainly these students are training for a long time. I mean, most of my cheerleaders, if you ask them, they're starting at 4 years old to learn the fundamentals and the principles of the sport. And so it's really intense. My team trains at the Saints facility here in New Orleans twice a week. So they're lifting weights, they're running, they're putting their bodies. We have our own trainer. My trainer is absolutely fabulous. He follows us. Sometimes he's like, no, we can't do another rep. We can't do it. And I'm like, nope, we got to do it, you know? So they're training at a high level. And the intensity on the body, I have to say this, in those 2 minutes and 30 seconds, it is intense. I mean, it is intense. Sometimes when they get off the mat, they can't breathe, right? Because they put all of their energy into it. And you may have that one little 3-second gap before the next transition to the next skill, but you're just going, you know? And so it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's certainly worth it. We train all year to get to the point of being a national champion. And so we don't take that for granted. So we use every moment to cultivate a skill. We use every moment to develop our routine and to develop our athletes, even at a game.
Follow up before I turn it back over to Dr. Cavil. You know, this is a sport. So what's the recruiting like for finding cheerleaders? You know, I mean, you asked me how to recruit a football player or a basketball player, I can tell you what the process is.
Right.
I work in elementary education, but I deal with high school athletes. I coach high school athletes. Yeah. I would have no idea on what to tell them to do if they want to be on a competitive cheer team in college. And after college, you know, you look for the NBA, NFL. What's there for these young ladies after college if they want to stay in this cheering profession? Do they go to to a professional sports team? You know, can you answer those couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So recruiting is similar to what football is. I watch film, sometimes hours and hours of films of athletes competing. I go out, I fly out, I go see them train. A lot of what I'm looking for on this level is because I know that our skill sets are our coaches. We have amazing, amazing, amazing coaches. My coaches are probably, I would say, the best in the country. Because we're not just getting the best athletes, we're getting athletes that we have to also cultivate some of those skills with as well. So I go and see, can you learn? Are you coachable? How do you react when your coach come and give you feedback? Just like some of my colleagues in football, they're watching those kids on the sideline. When you've been ejected from the game because your coach doesn't feel like you're meeting the mark, how do you react? So I'm watching all of those components because it tells me a lot about how they're going to come to Xavier and be receptive to all the feedback. One of our coaches, Michaela, she's a sensation and a Saints cheerleader and a Pelicans cheerleader. So certainly that's a life after college cheerleading. And she competed at this last weekend at the Cheerleading Worlds in Orlando. So I go and recruit from there too as well. So there's tons of opportunities. And what we're seeing in cheerleading right now is that cheerleading is actually becoming more recognized, right, at the international level. So we see the trend in potentially having this offered at the Olympics, right? And so what I'm guessing, I can't be a fortune teller, or a predictor of this, but I'm thinking that these college athletes will start to navigate in that realm as well.
Great points. Great information to share. Let's get into it. As I said it again, we're talking to the champion, Coach Caston. Let's follow up. The Xavier University, third year of the competitive cheer team, delivered the school's first ever NAIA National Team Championship in any sport with a record-setting point total on Saturday. Record-setting point total. Let me say that again to make sure people understand. Bylines here. Xavier's final score for those hadn't heard, 93.7 out of Apostle 100 points at the 2022 NAIA Cheer National Championship That's 75% of the points based on Saturday's performance. The rest of the points, 25%, were from Friday, which set a meet record for highest winning score. Talk a little bit about the competition, how it went getting the students prepared to get down there, some of the emotions that went into it, and how did it feel when you hear the final score and that you are, and all of those associated with Xavier and the ladies that participated, if you would, were champions.
Yeah, so our ladies and gentlemen, actually. So we have 2 guys on the team.
Thank you.
Yeah, certainly we had a lot of challenges this season. So maybe y'all recall that there was Hurricane Ida, right? That displaced us away for 6 weeks. So when we came back to practice, I was very distraught. I was like, man, these teams have a 6-week edge on us and we have to get this together, you know. But we, my coach, Coach Amber, she's my assistant coach, like my right-hand coach. She researched the Navy SEALs. We did some mental tough training. Every day we came to practice, we were practicing like those kids were in the Navy SEALs, because we knew that in order to get to this piece, we had to actually do something different. My phrase to the team is always, if you're gonna get something you never had before, you gotta do something you never done before. So the training had to be more intense, the intentionality. And then shortly after that, what happened to us is COVID hit us. So at the beginning of, right when we were going into choreography season, which is the season where we put everything together, the whole team got COVID, myself included. I was hospitalized, my team was out. So that was another 2-week period that put us back. So when we got back in January, we really had to get the ground running. So we were doing 2-a-days. The kids were practicing about 6 hours a day before the semester. And as you know, Xavier is a much rigorous institution. It's very rigorous in its academics. They were also having to comply with the academic components of the institution. So these kids are going to be your next doctors, you know, they're going to be your next lawyers. 75% of my team are bio pre-med or chem pre-med students who are getting to go to medical school or prepare themselves for the next leg.
Yes, indeed.
Medical profession, you're a professional. So
there you go.
They are doing all of that. So this is about mentality, because you can't do all of these things and be a national champion without having the right mentality. So we really focused on that. And then we also had to tap in. I would be remiss if I didn't say this. We had to tap into who we are as a person. So as you know that cheerleading, probably you know that cheerleading is not mainly dominated by Black teams. It's not like it is considered a Black sport. It's actually very white. And so when you look at national champions, when you look at world champions in this sport, what you're seeing is that these folks may not necessarily look like us. So it is our ideal to change the perspective of what the ideal cheerleader is, right? So that launched this year with our I See Me campaign. We launched a campaign that said, I see me and I'm good enough for me, just being me, who I am, to reaffirm not only our athletes, but younger athletes who are coming up behind them, and also to inspire other individuals to understand that maybe it's not the high ponytail that matters. Maybe it's really the athleticism that's on the floor that should really be worth the points. And so that's a lot of work. And so we prepared mentally and physically, obviously, for this. And these kids have trained really hard.
Certainly. Before I let you go, you talk about those lawyers and the doctors.
Mm-hmm.
You had the great announcement of Xavier, at least in my opinion, in terms of the new College of Health Science and Medical School, which is huge. So, man, that's big news. In addition to this NAIA National Championship. Mm-hmm. Before we let you go, would give you an opportunity to shout out and thank anybody that you'd like to, in terms of regards, both from the ladies and the gentlemen, they got it done.
Well, first I would have to say I have to thank our Vice President Curtis Wright, who when he essentially came on board, he made sure that we had the resources. He advocated for us. So our scholarships are comparable to those in other sports, if not better in some instances. So thank you to VP Wright for all of the work that he's doing in really embodying our principles around social justice and equity. And then of course, our president Verrett, he's always rooting us on, he doesn't necessarily know what the moves are called, but he knows when they're good because he claps. And of course, my athletic director, Nathan Cochran, who he is my side-by-side guy. I mean, I rely on him very heavily. I go to his office, I'm like, it's just a rough day, Nate. It's just a rough day. And he's always finding a solution. And I really, really appreciate him. Of course, to all of my parents who give all of their time. I have some of the best parents. They travel across the country with us and for us, sometimes bringing the whole family, sometimes bringing one. But that you can't do this without all of that support. And of course, all of our athletes in our community and our students buy into it. Our SGA is very supportive. We just have an all-around great program. And finally, I will say thank you to all the colleagues, all of my coaching colleagues who have helped me along the way in saying, Coach Glenn, let me take you under my wing, my mentors and all of those people. I can't not do this without all of that learning. And so thank y'all so very much. Thank you.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for taking the time, Coach Glenn Caston, the NAIA National Team Champion of Competitive Cheer from Xavier University 2022. Congratulations. We'll be right back after this quick break.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate pride. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
For 5-star backyards, Yellowwood brand pressure-treated pine. If it doesn't have this yellow tag, you don't want it.
Are you ready? It's time. The inaugural Urban NerdCon is coming to Montgomery, Alabama, July 29th through the 31st. Blurs, nerds, and geeks from across the universe will converge on the capital city to see celebrity guests such as The Last Dragon, Tybok, Megan Tandy, and voice actor Dave Fennoy.
Hey, how you doing? I'm voice actor Dave Fennoy with a shout out to all my geeks, freaks, and urban nerds. Just want to let you know I'm going to be there and I want to meet you at the Urban NerdCon Gaming and Cosplay event. It's happening July 29th through the 31st in Montgomery, Alabama. Hope you want to meet me as much as I want to meet you.
So join us by visiting theurbannerdcon.net for ticket and vendor information. This will be the premier blurred event in the universe. Theurbannerdcon.net. Our heroes, our villains, our stories, everyone's con. See you there.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Clinical Professor Drew. Getting into the second half of the show. Let's get into the Black College 9 HBCU Top 10 baseball poll by Black College 9 was released today, as Michael Coker gave us an update. This is week number 5. Let's go to the top 5 programs. Some of these programs will be in the Black College World Series a couple of weeks. So it'll be interesting to see what Drew thinks in terms of small division. We start out number 5 was Russ College, GCAC. They were 2-0 last week, ranked 6th, so they move up a spot. 16-13 on the season, bringing us to number 4. We go into Pairings College, NCAA, 2-3, previous ranked 5. So they also move up as they continue to play solid over the last week. 18-14 on the season. At number 3, you have Morehouse College out of the SIAC, 2-2 last week, previous ranked 3, so they stay right there. They are 23-17 on the season, bringing us to number 2. Shouldn't surprise you, Albany State, SIAC. They were 1-2 last week. Previous week 1, so they do drop down after that series they had with Savannah State. They're 25-10, bringing us to number 1, Savannah State out of the SIAC. That was 2-1, previous ranked 2, and they jump up after beating Albany 2 out of 3 in that series of basically clinched the SIAC regular season. 30 wins on the season. They're 30-10. Professor Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of the small division for Black College 9? To get the entire top 10, you can go to blackcollege9.com. Obviously, I know the BCSN with the Sports Wrap, you do a metric in terms of your top 5. I'm interested in your thoughts on how these two lined up based on what you got from the computers and what the voters said when they sent their information in.
Well, I think there's no debate about who's number 1, who's number 2 when it comes to small schools. Now, that's about the only thing that the BCSN computer rankings and the Black College 9s poll agree on. And I'll take for instance, when we look at the NAIA, at the BCSN computer rankings right here, you take a look, Rust is the number 1 NAIA school. And if you consider Payne an NAIA school, Payne's number 5 on our list. With Russ, Florida Boreal, Edward Waters.
Right. Interesting.
Obviously the computers don't like Payne's strength of schedule. I saw the numbers. That's what the big difference is on that. And when you look at the Division II poll and compare, our ranking has Kentucky State ahead of Miles, where Black College 9s has Miles in the top 5 and Kentucky State all the way down at number 9. So just kind of interested to see. And West Virginia State, which is in the second 5 on Black College 9s, is number 5 according to the BCSN. So it's interesting when you take a look at seeing what we perceive and what we vote versus when you just plug in and unplug in the algorithm and the computer doesn't know team A from team B. It just spits numbers out at you and says where to put them at.
I like doing that comparison right there because you see what the human element does in terms of the poll ranking. Yeah. Obviously, the natural biases come in there, and it is what it is. It's still entertainment purposes and gives you the ability for us to have something to talk about. So I love that. But when you get into those rankings, and obviously that is a composite of in terms of how you put it together. But I would argue that the ranking system in itself is a much better way to at least rank teams. You can decide how you talk about polls because you can measure in your own validity in terms of what you look at. In the polls, for example, the ranking system, strength of schedule may be more important. Somebody else ranking them, that may not be as important. They can say, hey, you played who you played. How did you play against them is what I'm going to look at. Before we get further, let's get into the large division, give you top 5 programs. We do have a new number 1, as I told you earlier, and I frankly am excited about it. At number 5, Grambling State out of the SWAC, 3-1. You'll hear that refrain in terms of the SWAC, in terms of the top 5 in a little bit. Actually, in a lot of ways, it's top 7 if you go to Black College 9 are all SWAC schools. Think about that. And number 5 is Grambling State, 3-1, as I said. Previous ranked 8, so had to sweep last week, as we talked about. They jumped 3 spots. They are 18-21 the season, playing some good baseball right now. Number 4, Jackson State University. They just went 1-2. Previously ranked 4, but they stay there. A lot of people like what Jackson State is doing right now. That's interesting when you think about it in terms of maybe what you have in your ranking. At 19-20 on the season, the Tigers are. At number 3, you have Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. both Jackson and Bethune-Cookman out of East, while Grambling at number 5 is out of the West. They are 18-21, 2-2 the last week, and previous ranked 3, so they stay right there, bringing us back to the East with another SWAC school coming on with that refrain, Alabama State. They were just 1-2 this last week, as they were ranked number 1, so they fall from number 1 with 21-16 record on the season thus far, bringing us to the new number 1, which is Prairie View A&M Panthers. Yeah, that's the Prairie View A&M team out of Texas. They are back in the baseball business in terms of getting into the second season, playing really good baseball, winning like 17 of the last 20, I think I've read somewhere. Last 2 sweeps over the last 2 weekends, and they were 3-1, 22-17 on the season, preview ranked 2. They are number 1. Professor Drew, let me know your thoughts. Am I wrong to be excited about the Panthers?
No, you're not wrong to be excited about the Panthers. The only thing that there's no knock against Prairie View, but the SWAC East is clearly, I won't say clearly, perceived this year to be a stronger conference, a stronger division when it comes to,
I like the word
when it comes
to
baseball. Yeah, I will say perceived. Especially when you talk about Alabama State and Bethune battling it out over there, and the FAMU just riding on their coattail, waiting on one of them to slip so they can take their take their spot. Where it kind of seems like Prairie View is separating themselves from everyone else on the SWAC West. And the SWAC West, no one has seemed to be able to put together a long streak. You know, somebody may go through, they take two or three this week. The next week they win 1 out of 2. Then the next week they get swept, and then they come back and sweep the following week. So it's like on the West, nobody can really put together any type of consistency. You know, and when it comes to baseball, all you try to do, can I win the weekend series? A sweep is good, but I just need to win the weekend series. I need to take 2 out of 3. And talk about the poll versus the ranking. Black College Sports Network has Alabama State as their number 1, with Prairie View as their number 2. Both agree with Bethune at the number 3, with FAMU and Grambling. You're in the hunt, which would be your number 16 right here, is Southern. Jackson State is nowhere in the picture, according to the computers. But Jackson State is number 4 in Black College 9. So it's really interesting to see. And then, of course, the human element has Florida A&M down, all the way down in the second 5. So it's really interesting when you look at those things. And Dr. Cavil, the interesting thing about it, on the D2 and the NAIA level, the people who picked the teams for the Black College, the Tyson Foods Black College World Series, looked at these. They looked at Black College 9 ranking. They looked at the BCSN computer ranking, and this was some of the stuff they had to sit in the room and on the Zoom call and debate which one did they think was more important when it came to this particular team.
That's exciting. That's how you get it done when you're talking about creating the whole holistic environment, about setting up a championship level tournament, of getting all these different players involved about what this means. And I can just see how this tournament is going to continue to grow. One thing that I will say about the ranking system versus the poll is both of them had the SWAC East with more teams in the top 5 than the SWAC West. Correct. So symmetry there. I would actually agree with you with the poll ranking, since it has a heavier weight on strength of schedule. I can see where they ranked Alabama State number 1 versus Prairie View. I think with individuals, they like to see team how they're playing right now. And I think if you look at that, you can see why the human element would have Prairie View in the polls ranked higher based on what they have done over the last couple of weeks. In terms of the games they have won non-conference, sweeping Southern that won the championship, and is perennial in terms of what they do in baseball. And then coming back and verifying it with a sweep against against Pine Bluff. Both of those have been at home, so it'll be interesting to see that. Go ahead before we take this break.
One other thing, when you talk about the human element, let's look at Prairie View's record. 22-17. Let's look at Alabama State's record, 21-16. Do you value that one extra win or one fewer loss when you filling out your ballot?
Great point.
I mean, just think about those are some of the things that the human element has to figure out in their mind. Which is more value? One less loss, one more win.
Great point. Love to see what the lab listeners out there think about that. Let's go to our last break before we get into some of these matchups going on this weekend. Obviously, you have the draft coming on. We'll be looking intently to see about the HBCU players that will go or may go, depending on how you look at it, the draft over the next couple of days. So it'll be fascinating and be intrigued about giving you those updates as we get into the shows this weekend, as well as into next week, certainly when you see us back. Let's take our last break, 7th inning. Calling the bullpen, we'll go into the stretch. Stick with us. We'll be back with some of the key matchups coming up this weekend.
Time to call a credit repair company to fix my credit. Hold the phone, man. You can do it yourself with Credit Versio. That's way too hard. Call the credit repair company. Most credit repair companies only work on 1 or 2 accounts at a time, making it slow and expensive. You won't figure that out for months. Ignore him. Credit Versio's brilliant software scans all 3 credit bureaus, finds the accounts that are hurting your score, and guides you through the entire process. Anyone can do it. Let's fast forward and see the results. Wow, I fixed my own credit and saved hundreds. You can do this. Visit creditversio.com.
The top HBCU programs in the nation come to Montgomery, Alabama's Riverwalk Stadium this May 11th through 14th for the Black College World Series. The best Black college baseball teams in the NCAA Division II and the NAIA will battle for Black baseball's ultimate pride. Games will be streamed live at www.mybcsn.net. Tickets are available now online at www.blackcollegechampionships.com.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
Inside HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop, sitting in for the 2 gentlemen as they are out on assignment. The professors there is none other than Clinical Professor Drew. With that being said, before we get into some of these key matchups to see how people continue to roll throughout the season, it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Let's get in here and talk about your thoughts, if you would, in terms of the draft. I know you believe that there's basically 3 players that are locked, and you set some over or under. What did you set that at, and how did you come to that?
Pop quiz for the lab listeners. And this is kind of pop quiz where you can't get anything, you can't get it right or wrong. You just have to justify your answer. I've set the number at 4.5 on the number HBCU players that get drafted. I want to know if you're going over 4.5 or under 4.5, and if so, who are those players? Let's see what the lab listeners responds. Pop quiz. You've got 5 minutes to get your answers in.
Hey, man, you tough. You're not playing with these folks, are you? Let's go into some of these matchups this Friday. First, let me give a shout out to Arkansas Pine Bluff with a 2-0 shutout, 4 pitchers combined, I should say, to get this shutout against the Memphis Tigers. That's 2-0. Alabama A&M got a loss to Tougaloo, upset the Bulldogs 9-8. Bulldogs are really, I wonder how much of that is not being able to have that home field. We still have prayers going out in terms of those that are affected in Alabama. We certainly know the baseball team.
I wonder if they're even able to practice how they're practicing without a field. You know, that might be the thing.
Not playing at home, trying to get to practice, and just a tough situation for them. But in terms of the SWAC, in terms of some key matchups this weekend, you have Texas Southern at Arkansas Pine Bluff as they travel up to the Arkansas this week. You got Florida on the road as they go to Mississippi Valley. That is the West and East. Coming back to the West, you have Prairie View on the road this week as they travel to Alcorn, Mississippi. Bethune-Cookman, intriguing matchup as they go on the road to Alabama. That's a matchup to the top two teams in the Eastern Division. And then you have that old rivalry, Southern at Grambling. That should be fascinating to keep your eyes on. And then Alabama A&M and Jackson, they just don't like each other in so many different ways. So Alabama A&M and Jackson, as the Bulldogs hit the road, see if they can recover. Both of these programs are trying to find a way to make sure they lock up that fourth spot. Jackson State has been playing better baseball of late, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like. But those are some of the key matchups starting on Friday for a 3-game series over the weekend. Any thoughts from you from that perspective?
Look, I'm gonna be honest. I need my Rattlers to get back on their winning way. We got this little small school to Mississippi trying to catch us on our coattail. We were fighting it out for first place 2 weeks ago. Now we're dangerously close, dropping down to fourth place over there in Tallahassee. So honestly, Doc, that's the only thing that I'm really worried about when it comes to SWAC baseball. Can my Rattlers stay above the Mendoza line and not fall down to number 4?
I see you. Let me do a little softball. Sherry's not dead. Let's talk about softball, at least some of the matchups going into this Friday. Alabama State at Tallahassee. They're on the road, so Alabama State goes into FAMU to look about seeing what they can get done there. Mississippi Valley State at Alabama A&M. Grambling at Prairie View, Alcorn at Texas Southern. And here in Houston, that's the Texas Southern team that has locked up the West. Jackson State at Bethune-Cookman. In Arkansas, Pine Bluff and Baton Rouge at Southern in terms of the matchups there. Let's look about the MEAC in terms of on the men's side of baseball. Give you some updates there to see what's going on in a couple of those matchups in terms of key games. Obviously, it's the 4 teams. Last time I talked to you, you talked about how these teams couldn't separate. Maybe a little more separation is going on from the top to the bottom. Top 2 teams, they're locked into it going in there. So keep your eyes on what's going on there in terms of the matchups to see this weekend. You have Maryland Eastern Shore at Coppin State, Delaware State at Norfolk State. So that'll be fascinating. Remember, in the MEAC, they're playing 4-game sets in terms of make sure they get those number of games in. So those are the things going on there. Let me go ahead and ask you, Drew, your thoughts on the MEAC in terms of baseball.
I don't have the standings in front of me, but correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Cavil. This is the 2 co-leaders playing each other this weekend.
That's correct. When you talk about matchups,
Coppin and Maryland
MEAC baseball, it is Coppin State at 14-10, Maryland Eastern Shore at 13-11, Delaware State 12-12, and then Norfolk State is sitting 9-15. So
it's 1 versus 2, 3 versus 4.
There you go.
Hell yeah. Well, no, I wanted to see separation, and it looks like Norfolk has separated themselves out of the race right now. Norfolk just can't get a series. They either lose the series 3-1, and at best they've been splitting series 2-2. When you're Norfolk State,
you can't catch up.
You can't catch up. Norfolk is going to have to basically sweep through the month of May in order to get back into this race and to really do something in MEAC baseball. I'm really interested in this Coppin Maryland Eastern Shore matchup, though. Right. Coppin's been putting up some runs. Coppin has really been putting up some runs, and it's going to be interesting to see, especially now that the weather has pretty much broken in the Northeast. Will those bats continue to be hot into the month of May? I really want to see one of these teams pull away and get a 1-2 game lead over the other one. And Coppin is really trying to take the season series from Maryland Eastern Shore this weekend. That is their goal. If they get 3 out of 4, they will have the season series against Maryland Eastern Shore.
Before we get out of here, let me give you at least the softball matchups, and we'll close out to let the folks get into the draft so they can give us some updates of what's going on there. Norfolk State at Maryland Eastern Shore, North Carolina Central at Morgan State, South Carolina State at Coppin State, Howard at Delaware State are your key matchups this weekend. That'll do it for us. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That is Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop, as we had clinical professor A.D. Drew bringing us the knowledge tonight. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday right here at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the labs. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattaCavil on Twitter. I've been very active, a lot of good conversations. So I've been giving updates, giving you some business on the world of sports, specifically for HBCU. So if you like that information, want to get some updates, make sure you check in on Twitter. Good stuff going on Instagram, keeping you up visually what you can see. And obviously on Facebook, you can follow all the good information to make sure you get the latest of what we're doing here and there around the HBCU world. That is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Dream big, continue to move forward. Make sure you get into download my JBN, my BCSN for all the content that we provide you. Obviously, check out Brian and AD as they get it done on Sunday on the Sports Wrap, and continue to give those updates on Wednesday as we prepare for the tournament. Make sure you stay involved. If you can get in there, check it out. We will broadcast everything for you. With that, we'll talk with you soon. Drew?
Of course.
Lecture?
Dismissed. We're all of y'all.